my spooky friends. This is John, your host of Dairyland Frights, a paranormal podcast that covers everything spooky, creepy, and mysterious in the Midwest. And today, again, some of my favorite people are paranormal investigators. I have Exspirit. Is that... I told you I was a mush mouth. Told you. Okay, so can you guys introduce yourself? If you want to start, whoever, and introduce yourself, that would be great to my spooky audience.
All right, I'm Jackie. We all met in 2020, the year the world shut down, and formed our group ExspiravitParanormal, which is Latin for ghost.
Yeah.
I'm Nick. I met Jackie and Renee on a tour at Pennhurst, actually. I was a former tour guide and paranormal investigator for them, and they ended up in my group, and here we are.
And my name is Renee. I've known Jackie because our kids grow up together, and that's how we met Nick.
That's awesome. I love when a group comes together over a terrible circumstance, I guess. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that was not a great year. Like, that's the dumpster fire year, right? Everybody's like, that and the file under life sucks.
Yeah.
So tell me about this. I'm going to get right into it. Whoever wants to start. Jackie, if you want to start, that's fine. What interested you in the paranormal? And my second question, really quick. Did you have a paranormal experience when you were younger that maybe affected you, to bring you into the paranormal and made you, kind of want to find out more?
Well, for me, I'm just a curious person in general. I've always been curious. It's funny, my son is 7.5 and he's super curious, just like me. So I guess it runs in the genes. But I always was just so curious, watched a lot of the shows. And I guess around 2019, 2020 during COVID, I really got into the shows and I was like, I really want to experience this. I want to see for myself if what I'm seeing on TV is real. And we're going to probably talk about this and explore this, but it's very easy to watch things and be like, that can't be real. Mm-hmm. So I always challenge people to go try it yourself and see for yourself what's real and what. So my first investigation was a public investigation at Gettysburg in September 2020. And that's when I got the bug. And then I came back and I told Renee about it at one of our play dates. And she's like, girl, sign me up. I want to go. So I researched what was available in our area. And we luckily live very close to Pennhurst State School, a.k.a. Pennhurst Asylum, which is popularly known as, I actually grew up 2 minutes up the road from Pennhurst. Always knew about it. We got to explore it until Renee and I went there for a public investigation. That's when we got hooked up with Nick, and the rest is history. And then to answer your second question, no, I didn't have any experiences as a kid. I wish I had, but for me, it's just curiosity.
Nick.
I had my first paranormal experience at 4 years old.
Ooh.
We were coming home from Philadelphia, and I said, Mom, there's a blonde-haired lady tapping outside the window, and I saw this woman historical dress, and she had red shoes, and she had blonde hair, and she was just tapping on our window. And then fast forward 2006, I ended up at Fort Mifflin in Philadelphia, right behind the airport, and I was smelling bread. I was smelling floral perfume. I heard the screaming lady, which there's a whole thing about, who hung herself. She actually had a yellow fever, and she was screaming. I've had countless experiences, which we can get to later, but my favorite one is when I first met you guys, and I came in contact with a spirit, and I said, oh my God, there's a black man standing in this hallway right now. And they both go, is he dead or alive? I said, he's dead, but he's standing in this hallway.
He's dead.
And I said, okay, I got to go run back upstairs. And we turned the geoport on. And I said, what did I just see? And there was a little kid that said guard. Yeah. So that was at Pennhurst. So November 2020, right?
No, that was the second time.
Second time?
That was around our birthday. February 2021, probably.
Right. Yeah.
But you
Renee,
did
before...
photo at
Go
Fort
ahead.
I did get a very fun photo when I was a kid. I got a photo of a soldier, and you can see it has the rifle and has the hat, and I watched that walk across, like it's like a porch almost. I watched it walk across, cock its gun, look at us, and walk into a wall. I said, no one is there. There's nobody dressed in historical garb. So I've had
and they use that photo.
They do use that photo, yeah.
Yeah, he has a photo of himself. I think it's on our Instagram of you at the fair, or you were at some.
I was at Hell House Paracon.
Yeah, and Fort Mifflin was there with a booth, and you held up your photo. You're like, "This is the photo I took when I was 11," and they show it to people. That's
wow. Renee, can you top it?
I don't think so. I unfortunately didn't have any paranormal experiences as a child growing up, but I'm basically just going to kind of echo what Jackie said. Like, I was always curious about the paranormal. I just didn't have anybody to do it with, basically. So she was live streaming on her Instagram, her Gettysburg investigation, while I'm also watching like one of the paranormal shows on TV. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I didn't know she was into the paranormal. And I think DM'd you. Yeah. And I'm like, holy crap. Like, I didn't know you were into the paranormal. I love the paranormal. Yeah. And that's how we got hooked up. And then, like Jackie said, we went to Pennhurst for our first time, and we met Nick.
We were hooked.
Yeah, but I was always fascinated by it. I always wanted to know if like what I'm seeing on TV, like what they're going through is like real, or is it just just scripted, smoke and mirrors and stuff. So
absolutely. So hold on, let me back up. You saw a ghost outside your car window. Was it running alongside?
So it was actually just standing. It's right off of the Schuylkill Expressway in Philadelphia, and there's like this little mile marker. It says 1774, 17.74. And there was just this woman. She was, the best way I can describe it, a skeleton face, had the big poofy hoop skirt, white dress on, blonde hair, was in a bun, red shoes, just tapping on the window.
That's fascinating. So you're 4 years old, and you're basically turning and hello.
And I know, all right, you're dead. I'm alive, but you're here. What's going on?
And you told your mom.
I told my mom. Yeah, she had experiences growing up. I'm clairvoyant, so I've had experiences all my life.
That is awesome. And again, Pennhurst is like one of the granddaddy or goat places, spiritual, paranormal, you name it. And really your area, like the Midwest, is people don't look at it like, I don't know, like a hot spot, right? You think of New York, you think of LA, you think of major cities, right? Because that's where you think all this. But Gettysburg was some of the bloodiest battles ever in the history of warfare. And, men were being, cannonballs were taking off men's heads and just crazy stuff, that just happened there. Of course, you're going to get something that's going to be terrible. So, I think that's great that you guys have had all these experiences. Let me ask you this. When was the time, though, I think you already told me, though, when you got really hooked? It was Pennhurst? Was that the one that really hooked you, that got you involved with it?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for me, Gettysburg was my first, and I'll never forget. Yeah. So it's called After Dark Investigations. They take people around at Gettysburg. So anyone listening, you want to look into them, because they were really good to take you out at night and explore. They have you meet in this like undisclosed location. They don't tell you where you're meeting until like.
Oh, really?
And then they drive you around to different. When you follow them in your car to different locations in Gettysburg, and you can't legally go on the battlefield, but they take you to as close as you can to like the right outskirts of the
border.
Yeah, the border. Yeah. And they brought along a spirit box. I think it was an SB11. And I'll never forget, this voice comes through and says, "Hey, bud." And it was like this.
Yeah, you played it for me.
It was like, "Hey, bud." Like a very spooky, gargly voice that just didn't. You're like, this can't be the radio. Like it You feel it in your bones. You're like, that is not a voice on the radio. That is not even a human voice.
Yeah.
And I think that's what, that night I was like, there's just no way that was human or any kind of radio interference. So that's when I was like, okay, there's something to this.
Yeah.
Then we went to Pennhurst, and then
that was awesome.
That night when we met Nick, when he was our guide that night, we had a lot happen that night.
I feel like that was like the first time that I was totally convinced.
Yeah.
Because so we get there, we did a tour, so we're kind of just walking, and there was a big group. There's about 25 of us.
25 to 30 people.
And Jackie and I were in front of the group, and we're walking along, and we're outside, and like I just kept hearing like a woman like speaking, and I'm like, okay, like somebody's like just struggling, trying to like just say something, and I'm like, Jenny was our guide. I said, excuse me, Jenny, I think somebody in the back has a question. Yeah. And she's like, oh, okay. So everybody kind of went silent. Next thing I know, a girl in the back of the group comes running up, and she's like, did you hear that? Did you hear that?
Yeah.
And I looked at her. I'm like, did you hear a woman? She's like, yeah. She's like, it was coming from over there. And when you turn, it's just a big open field. Like
there's nothing
there. It was very weird. Like
that was like the beginning of the night.
That was the
like that wasn't even the investigation.
I mean, we heard like children giggling. Like there's no kids there. Kids are not allowed there. Like I heard children giggling. We heard a child whimper in the Mayflower building that was just totally audible.
Singing?
The singing.
I'll never forget that.
We heard a child singing.
Kids doing scales, like music scales.
I'll never forget.
Really?
Yeah, we were in the Devon building, and
it was a circle of 12 of us.
Yeah. About 12 of us. It was totally, we went completely dark, so all of the flashlights were out. The only light coming in is the moonlight, basically. And we're just sitting there, and we're, communicating, and all of a sudden you just hear...
Yeah.
Oh, creepy.
And, at that point, you think you just, like, want to get up and, like, run out. But there was just something so hauntingly beautiful about it, but also very sad. But so to me, because I'm a mom and, like, I have a daughter, and it just, like, I hope that spirit is at peace at least. And, you know what I mean? Just, I don't know. It was the most craziest thing I've ever experienced.
I will never forget. And it felt like it was coming. You couldn't figure out where it was coming from.
It was very ethereal sounding. It was just coming from like, it wasn't coming from like a specific area. And Devon is huge. Like it's almost like a maze. Like like one room goes to another, and it's very maze like. But this sound was just like audible throughout the entire building.
Yeah.
You know. Of course, when we explain this to like people we're close friends with, or even our spouses, they're like, "Oh, well, it's probably somebody just with like a, a boombox hidden in the corner." And I'm like, no way, like that they can, because each time we've gone there, we've had a different experience.
It's different every time.
It's different every single time.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I've done episodes on the Missouri State Penitentiary, which is the 100 Acres of Blood. I've done it on Ohio State Reformatory, which is AKA Shawshank Redemption. That's where they filmed it. In numerous films they filmed there. And it sounds like Pennhurst is kind of the same way. Every time people go there, they get something different, something, crazy, or something just mundane, like, hello, or, how are you? Or, or again, something bad like get out, or, kill or murder. Have you guys, let me back up here. When you guys start an investigation, how do you start an investigation? And let me tell you, I've spoken to now 12 paranormal investigators, and they all do it differently. So I'm guessing you guys will do it a little differently too. Some, when they enter the building, they say, hey, I'm Nick, I'm Jackie, I'm Renee. We're going to investigate tonight. Please, if you have a problem with us, let us know. We will leave. We're very respectful. Others, to go in, start setting up the equipment, and they just want to be like, let's go, let's get in. Where do you guys start? When you guys start an investigation, do you research it first? How do you go about it?
So we do a lot of research prior to the investigation because number one, like a lot of these places are very heavy and very dark. So we want to know what we're kind of getting ourselves into. So we always like to do like some research and get like a feel for the place and like, you know, time period wise, like what went on, so on and so forth. And then, you know, we get there, we set up our equipment, we get a kind of lay of the land, like, you know, we'll do like a tour and get the lay of the land. And then we figure out, okay, like what are the hot spots? And then once we figure that out, then we just kind of say, okay, well, let's start here. And then we kind of just, you know, go from there. And usually when we first start off, you know, we will introduce ourselves. We say we come in peace. We're here to, you know, respectfully, and we're just here to ask some questions and, you know, basically get your story told.
Yeah, and I would add on that we also, like, sometimes the guides or whoever's in charge of the private, like, we do a lot of privates where we rent it out for ourselves, and they'll say, do you want to know the like, do you want to know more? Like, do you want to know what people experienced in these rooms? And oftentimes we say no. Like, we'd rather find out, like, experience it, and then let that, like, if that person says, oh yeah, several people have told me the same thing, that's always a cool experience to be like, okay, so I'm not crazy. It wasn't a figment of my imagination, or I'm not influencing this investigation. So there are times where we will tell them, like, don't tell us specifics what other people have gone through in these rooms, but we like to recap later.
Nick, anything to add?
No, they kind of covered it up.
Yeah. So have you guys ever gotten to a place and one of you, if not all three of you, said, wow, this is heavy. Like, there's something wrong here. I'm not sure if we should do this tonight.
I did.
Which one?
So when you and I went to SK last summer.
What's SK?
SK
Pierce.
It's in Massachusetts.
SK Pierce Mansion. Okay. It's a Victorian mansion located in Gardner, Massachusetts. Jackie and I have been there twice. Nick's been there. No, you've been there twice. I'm sorry. Yeah. But separate trips. And our first time it was good. I mean, it was, you know.
We saw an orb of light
bounce across the wall.
We saw an orb bouncing off. We also, they captured, Jackie and Nick saw a little girl kind of, I guess, walking across.
She grabbed the REM pod when we asked her to.
She grabbed the REM pod.
What?
Yeah. We said, okay. Rachel.
Yeah.
So they saw Rachel outside of this one room that we were in, and they said, okay, Rachel, on a count of 3, you know, grab the REM pod, and Nick took 3 pictures back to back.
She was in the second one.
She was in the second one. So first picture, walking. Second picture, you literally see a hand grabbing the REM pod.
Like 3 fingers just grabbing it.
Like, you see the definition in the fingers. And then third picture, nothing.
Yeah. I am looking through some of your pictures here, and I'm not going to share all of them because I don't know how technology might screw this up. So, but I will share them on our social media. But
we'll follow up with you later and point out which ones.
Yeah. Okay. Because I see one that you had with it looks like an older house you're in, and it looks like someone's sitting in a antique chair. I know this is kind of like, I don't know, picture talking about, but
maybe
that to me is really interesting. Have you ever like gone into a room and like seen like an apparition or a mist like sitting in a chair sitting on?
What?
Holy man.
Like,
fun story, actually. When we go to Lizzie's 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah. So, if you know the Lizzie Borden case,
yes,
very, 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 very connected to that house. A little bit too much connected, but I spent the night in the John Morris room where Abby Borden was.
Yeah.
They spent the night in Lizzie and Emma's room, and it's right next door to me. I woke up at 2:45 to Abby Borden running around the bed. And I said, okay, I got to get out of here. So I walked down down to the front stairs, and I decided to just start up a conversation. And I'm smelling food being cooked at 3:45, 4 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, Bridget, are you cooking? And I hear from the kitchen, yeah, cooking for Master Borden. And I said, okay. All right.
Wow.
All right. She had her door, was kicked
open
on you?
It opened on me.
Her bedroom door, you got to lock, shut it and
it's
latch
like an old door, so it's like, for you to latch, you got to pull it and then turn the knob to get it to lock.
Yeah.
And it just clicked open and just opened. And she thought it was me coming in the room. I'm like, Jackie, I was in the John Morris room. Well, we were
outside.
Yeah, we were going to dinner.
Either outside or still out at dinner. Yeah. I said there was nobody in here.
Yeah, so I had just had surgery like 3 weeks prior, and I was like, I am not missing this investigation. So I wound up leaving dinner early. He walked me back and he's like, you're going to be by yourself in this house, just so you know. And I'm like, I don't even care. I need to
Jackie. Come on.
And the whole time I'm laying, so I'm in Lizzie Borden's room.
Yeah.
And the headboard is original, right?
Apparently.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm laying in her bed, whatever. And the whole time I'm just hearing like things running around me. And apparently there were children.
Yeah, in 1848, her great aunt killed herself postpartum. She drowned 2 kids in the well next door on property and slit her throat.
Oh.
So they visit 2 children, Eliza and Holder. They visit the 3rd floor of the house.
Yeah, so I was hearing that going on around me. Then Renee came back because Emma's room is inside of Lizzie's room. So she came back from dinner, came in. I remember seeing her get something, and then I remember distinctly her pulling the door shut.
And I remember. Yeah,
I took a lot of effort to make sure it was locked.
I closed it, and then you and I went into John Morris' room to do like an SB7 or an SB11 session. Yep. So we were in there, and then
I hear the doorknob turn, fly open. I sat up and I'm like, Renee, and there's literally no one there at all. And I'm just like, okay, I laid back down. Maybe 5 minutes later, you come up and I'm like, Renee, did you open my door?
I'm like, no.
I'll never forget her look on her face, and she looks and sees the door open and she goes, how did this get open? I'm like, I haven't left this bed. I don't know. Like,
wow.
Yeah.
You guys are amazing. We're like 20 minutes into this, and already you've scared me. You thrilled me. This is a movie. I'd be on the edge of my seat. So that's one of my bucket lists, to go to the Lizzie Borden House and everything.
So worth it.
I have dreams about it. It's calling me back there.
She has dreams about it.
I text them all the time. I'm like, guys, I had another dream about it.
The house will draw you in. Once you go, it draws you in. There's a different kind of energy. Everybody thinks there's evil, there's demonic. No, there's just a brutal murder that happened there.
Yeah, I don't think there's nothing.
There's stuff.
About it. Yeah. It's weird to see. I don't even know how to describe it.
You feel watched all the time. If you're a woman, you're going to get touched. Don't touch money in that house.
I just remember like growing up as a kid and my dad telling us the rhyme, like Lizzie Borden had an axe, I just remember that freaked me out so much as a kid. But then like, then you just kind of forget about it, move on with life. And then, once I found out Nick was obsessed with Lizzie Borden, it just didn't interest me. I'm just like, okay, so what? She killed her family, whatever. I remember the rhyme, blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, no. And he literally sat me down for like an hour. Had a power presentation. And just like, I sat down for over an hour. And by the end of the hour, I'm like, okay, I'm like captivated.
Right,
yeah.
And then right before we checked in to the bed to Lizzie's house, we went to the Fall River Historical Society and did a tour there. And they had a section in there of like all curated items from the murder.
Oh, yeah.
There was like, unfortunately, you weren't allowed to take any pictures of it, but they had Abby Borden's hair extension,
it was like
hairpiece
with the blood on it.
With the blood on it, on top of the cam that had the drops of blood on it still. There were letters. There was all kinds of stuff. They even had
Andrew and Abby's hair in like petri dishes that they tested.
They even had Lizzie Borden's meatloaf recipe written down on an index card. I guess after she was acquitted and kind of sort of integrated back into society somewhat, even though she
I love meatloaf, so there you go.
And I'm just like, I don't know. It just really, I don't know. I loved it. I really did. It's definitely one of those, like, if you have an opportunity to go.
Definitely.
I would add on that one thing I didn't know until we went to the Historical Society was that it was the first viral true crime story of its time.
It was like the OJ trial of the century, basically.
Whatever you can think of right now going on. But it was that first true crime junkie story.
Photographed True crime.
Yeah.
And it was just really cool to experience staying there and to say, like, even if you don't even believe in paranormal, it's a piece of history.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And to sleep in that house, it was so cool. It's really cool.
It was great.
Yeah, and that to me is, and a couple questions for the ladies, Renee and Jackie. Nick brought this up. Typically, and I hate to say this, but typically the places you are going into were men did not treat women very well, right? Let's just be honest. It's there. And I always ask the female investigators, you ever feel a fear going into a jail, maybe a murder house where the guy like beat his wife, maybe killed her, tortured her? Do you ever feel like going in there and being like, ugh, I don't know if I want to do this. There ain't that feeling for either one of you.
Like, just it's like, oh gosh, like what am I getting myself into? But then it's like, I'm not gonna show fear. I'm just, like, I'm ready. It's like I kind of have to push past that and just, thankfully I haven't had anything come at me or anything physically harm me or.
No one touched your hair, grabbed your hair, bruises, cuts.
No, I've never felt like guys, like, I've never gotten sick. I've never, experienced like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm going to faint. Like I got to get out of this place. No, nothing like that. But it's like,
Jackie?
there are times where it's like, oh my gosh, like, okay, knowing what I know about this place, I'm a little nervous, but I'm also excited,
Yeah.
How about you, Jackie?
I don't think I've experienced anything negative. The only time was we went to Mifflin. Fort Mifflin. The only time I felt something where I was like, okay, this is weird, was we were in one of the casemates and I felt something around my neck. And it's kind of weird when something happens because you're like, your mind doesn't automatically go to this is paranormal. It's kind of like, I'm feeling something weird. What's going on? And I felt like something was just squeezing my neck. And I heard this on a recording. I listened to it recently and I was like, who's squeezing my neck? And then I think you mentioned William. What was it? William Howe? He was hung there. Oh, that's right. No, I felt my neck getting squeezed and I looked at Nick and I didn't really know the history into too much depth. It was like I had an idea what went on there. I go, Nick, was somebody hung here? And he goes, yeah, William Howe was hung here. And I'm like, William, are you grabbing my neck? And then we had a REM pod set up and the REM pod went off as if to say yes. So that was the only time where I felt something threatening me in a way, but it was almost like communicating with me like I was hung here kind of thing. But no, I don't think I felt anything malevolent towards me. Yeah, I kind of go into
so on.
I don't know. I don't really think about.
So
yeah.
I would say on the flip side, have you ever had a handsy ghost? Any ghost be a little bit like, hey, baby, what's up? Kind of ghost, like nothing like that.
Yeah, she got bit at Penhurst.
Yeah.
But,
I don't know what that was about. That was a crazy night.
That was an insane night.
Okay.
We had a very interesting experience. We'll probably go into that later, but it was a very active night. We were on the 3rd floor of Mayflower, and I remember feeling like this burning sensation on my inner thigh, and I had jeans on. It was a warm night.
Yeah,
I just kept,
June.
and I kept like going like, oh my god, like what is itching me? And I'm like scratching. I don't think anything of it until I get home that night. I'm getting changed, and I look down, and I'm like, there is a massive bruise on my inner thigh. I've never bruised like that before. Never bruised like that since. I took a photo. I sent it to the group chat, and I'm like, should I be concerned? And everyone was like, oh, whoa, what the hell? And I'm like, yeah, like I don't know where that came. But it was clear. It's probably in our files that we sent you.
Yes, I saw the picture. Yeah. I did see the picture. Yes.
Yeah, it's huge. It took 3 weeks for that to go away. I'm not anemic. There's like nothing wrong with my labs. Like there's nothing to explain that. It was not there before I went into that investigation.
Yeah. So. Absolutely. Renee, anything happened to you?
No. Nothing where it was like, this is getting weird. No.
Good. Good.
Yeah.
I will tell you, if you guys ever investigate the Lemp family mansion, if you're in the female bathroom, going to the bathroom, Charles Lemp, the ghost, likes to peer over the bathroom stall and check you out. So be careful of Charles. He's a pervert. You might want to, tell him to beat it.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
I just don't know where it is.
Yeah.
So my next question is, sometimes I've hear, again, paranormal investigators, they hear something like maybe in the spirit box they're using, or maybe on their digital recorders, whatever, that says like breathing or breath. And immediately the whole group has trouble breathing. And this happened to one of my paranormal groups I interviewed, 305 Paranormal in Florida, shout out.
Mhm.
They were in this house and they heard consumption, clear as day. And consumption is basically where you just have trouble breathing and you die from you just can't breathe. And they heard consumption. And all of them at the same time were like, man, I'm having trouble breathing. Yeah, you okay? No, I'm not okay. And they walked out the location they were at, and then they took some breaths and they were like, well, that was weird. Anything like that happened to you guys?
I know you get more physically affected.
I get physically affected a lot.
Yeah, I bet.
Penhurst, I felt like someone punched me in my face. But
Ooh.
nothing with breathing.
I think we get headaches.
I get headaches a lot whenever I go to
dizziness.
Penhurst. I get a lot of headaches when I go there. I can't go to the basement of Devon to the right side. I can go to the left side, and not to the right. There's something dark down there. I don't. We'll get into that later. But whenever I go down there, I get a splitting headache, and I get really sick. I get very nauseous. I just can't go down.
Anything?
Nothing like
Jackie, Renee, anything from you two? Anything like that?
No, I've never had any issues with breathing or
not
like
with breathing.
I think so. I mean, we've been with people who vomited or got physically ill, but no, I don't think so.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that hasn't happened, because that would be crazy to experience that. And maybe you will. Who knows? And then my last question before we get into your investigations, have you ever had a spirit attach itself to you and you take it home?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me about it.
Yeah, I have.
No.
Okay, talk about it.
Here we go again. Penhurst story. Little girl Emily. She was a spirit there. She was a patient there. She passed away there. She's earthbound, so she has not crossed. She doesn't want to cross. She considers me a little brother to her.
Wow.
And every time I go, she'll come through. And it was probably 2 years ago, and I just came home, and my lights were going on and off in my room. And I felt someone jump up on my back and grab me, and, as like a toddler would to their older cousin or their older brother or something, just play with them. And I said, you got to go home. And the only way I can get her to go home, I drove by Penhurst, opened the door, and I said, go home. I'll be back next weekend. Go home. I cannot be here.
Wow.
Yeah, I've had that happen to me. That's about it.
Wow. Jackie, Renee?
No,
Nothing?
Thankfully, I've not had anything follow
Nothing
me
follow
home.
you home yet?
My husband always says, right before I leave for an investigation, please do not bring anything home. I said, I will do my best.
Yeah.
I'm of the train of thought. It's probably controversial, but I think if I don't want to believe you can bring anything home, it doesn't happen. So I don't.
Okay, that's a good thought.
I've never experienced anything in my house, and it's kind of weird because when I go home, I block it off. I turn it off, and I don't. So.
Yeah. So that leads me to, after investigations, you guys sage. Do you bless each other? What do you do just to make sure there's no evil or nothing bad?
Depends what happened that night.
And sometimes, we go tired after an investigation. We just go to bed, and then it's I don't know. We forget.
Yeah, we kind of forget.
We kind of forget to do that.
Ourselves.
But
no, I really don't. I mean, I light sage before an investigation, but again, I just think sage makes your house smell nice. I don't know if it really does anything.
Okay.
I really believe in it.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So let's get to my favorite part. let's talk about some of your favorite investigations. Whoever wants to start, why don't you guys could you do me a favor? How about let's talk about 3 of them and kind of rank them. I'm guessing Penhurst is high up there, but hey, however you guys want to talk about them, just feel free.
I would say Penhurst, just because that was the first place I went to and the most of activity or experience. Penhurst, SK Pierce would be my second. Third, it's kind of tricky. I really like the Shanley. I'd say the Shanley, definitely.
And what's that? Is that a house or a?
It's a hotel
in Napanoch,
New York. Yeah.
Mm.
That was our most recent trip.
Number 1, top down Lizzie Borden's house. Every time I go, there's something. It's a favorite location of mine. That number 1. Number 2, Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum.
Ooh,
that was fun. That was a long investigation, but it was a very fun location. And 3, I'm gonna go toss up between SK Pierce and Penhurst. Gave you 4, but SK Pierce and Penhurst are fun. All of them.
Nice. Jackie?
Oh, I would say this is going to be a little controversial, but I'm going to say my number 1 spot is White Hill Mansion in New Jersey, Bordentown, New Jersey. Where's it called? Fieldsboro. It used to be called Bordentown. Fieldsboro, New Jersey. We've been there probably about 4 or 5 times. Each time's a little different, but it's never disappoints. It's an easy hour drive for us. That's where I got a photo of a soldier in the mirror. I think that's in our little file.
Yep.
Insane Estes sessions there. My second would be, I'll say Penhurst, just because it's the most frequent one we've been to.
We've always been
but then there's some nights it's completely dead. Not gonna lie, there's some nights you go to Penhurst and nothing happens, and other times it's off the charts.
Popping off.
And then my third would be Lizzie Borden's. I don't know that house. I don't have an attachment to it like he does, but it keeps coming in my dreams. It's not anything bad. It's just I have a dream that I'm back in that house and we're all there, and it's happy. It's nothing bad. It's just I'm back in that house. So I think it wants me back. I don't know.
I think so. It definitely does.
Yeah, that reminds me, you're probably all know what regression or regress dreams, in the past maybe you lived at the Lizzie Borden house, Jackie. Maybe, who knows?
I've been told.
Nick has.
Yeah.
You've known her for almost 200 years.
That's awesome. So out of each of those ones, can you give me, Renee, I'll start with you. You kind of talked a little bit about it, but give me your best experience and kind of your, that really kind of said, wow, this is an amazing place and I love to come back.
It's close. Penhurst. I would say Penhurst. Penhurst was probably the one I've had the most experiences at, just with, the things that the children laughing and singing,
the guy that walked up on you.
Oh yeah. So there was another instance where we were there investigating, and we had another person join with us that knew Jackie growing up in high school, and he kind of just went off on his own walking around, and then he said, "Hey Renee," he's like, "Come here." He's like, "Check this out." So I kind of left the group. You guys were doing an EVP session. I go upstairs and I go into the hallway. There was another older couple up there, and they said to me, they're like, "There's shuffling or walking or something coming from back here, something." So we walked down. We're standing there, and it was raining outside, but we could kind of tell okay, well, that's rain, that's wind, because there was plastic on the windows, so we knew okay, well, that's just the wind. But then we were getting and we would come back as, and then it would come back so we're doing this back and forth, and then it was I it was the hair kind of stood up on the back of my neck, and your friend Matt. So I'm kind of standing next to Matt, and all of a sudden you hear like feet shuffling. Like, you know, and a lot of those people, some of them like maybe just couldn't walk that great, or, you know, a lot of the patients kind of just shuffled around. So it sounded like feet scraping on the concrete, and it was scary.
It like ran up on you.
It kind of like came, and I kind of just like turned, like I felt like it was like right here, like right on me, and I'm just like that creeped me out. I was like, wow. Like, and then I came running downstairs and I saw you and I grabbed you and I'm like, you're not going to believe this. Yeah.
I'm like, holy shit, what?
Yeah.
We run upstairs and I was like, do it again. And of course, it doesn't do it again.
Yeah, right.
Yelling out a window with like, I'm like, do it again. And nothing.
And then like we went back up there and I said, I want to go back to where I heard it coming from. So I followed the hallway. There's just like, it just dead ends. Like there's no, that was creepy because it was literally like somebody just kind of walking, like shuffling, and then it's getting louder and closer.
Oh, wow.
More like quicker. And I'm like, and I kind of just like I was turning as if I'm like guarding myself, like, oh my God, like what's happening at you? Yeah.
That is scary to hear that, especially when you can't see anything and it's quiet and you just hear that, right? And you're just, what's going on? So, Nick, I know it's Lizzie Borden, right?
Yes, yeah.
But what keeps you coming back for more? What is that experience that you say, man, I got to come back again. I got to see what's this up.
Yeah, it's the Borden House. It was my 15th birthday, and I spent the night there. And it wasn't even through the spirit box. We were in the sitting room where Andrew was murdered, and we're giving the tour. And I hear from behind me, Emma, the boy's back.
Oh.
I said,
they're talking about you.
They're talking about me. I said, okay. All right, wow. Turn the spirit box on, and I say, all right, who's in here? Andrew comes through, and we had dowsing rods, and I said, can you show where you are? And it points to right behind where I'm sitting. I said, are you behind me? Yes. I said, okay. All right, so they definitely know me. They know I'm here. They know I've been here. Why do they know that?
Yeah.
So that. And every time
that's amazing. Go on. I'm sorry.
Every time I go, it's, I don't think you believe me. The first time I said, listen, I have this big connection to Lizzie. Yeah. This one needed to see it for herself. We were up on the 3rd floor, and I said, where are you? And the woman comes through. I'm here, Lizzie. I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah, we heard, like, I heard Lizzie several times.
Oh, and we were saying.
And then saying, Nick's here.
He's back. I'm back.
He's
back.
Yeah.
That is amazing. And that is an intelligent haunting.
Yes.
And, that to me is one of the best hauntings, right? In my opinion, that you get an intelligent haunting, something that, interacts with you to that degree is very, very rare, right? At least in my opinion.
I have another one real quick. It was
go ahead.
And I was just giving a tour, and I was locking up. I had to lock up the Mayflower building, so I start up the 3rd floor, and no one's there. 2nd floor, no one's there. The 1st floor, no one's there. Go to the basement, and I'm just you hate this.
Yeah.
Basement's creepy in Mayflower, and this woman just glided across the floor, and it was a World War II style nurse, and she said, "Oh, you're back," and her head turned this like that. Her face went from human to skeleton, and she dissipated.
Oh.
I said, "Oh, all right, okay, I'm leaving. Good night."
That's where I run.
I left.
Oh, I don't blame you.
You got to lock up by yourself.
Yeah. That's where I run. I hear you.
It's like, you're followed. You feel it, and there's a tunnel there, and I'm like, all right, I just got to go. I'm coming in. If you want to follow me, be my guest. Don't scare me, but I gotta lock up. Good night. Yeah.
And for Jack, before I get to you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel the Villisca Axe Murder House and Lizzie Borden House are very, very similar in the sense I've been to Villisca 3 times.
You're lucky.
When me and my mom went,
we're gonna go so bad.
We really.
You guys will love it. Absolutely love it. Anyway, I went through with my mom, and my mom she always had a way. She's in clairvoyant or sensitive, but she always has a way of just like feeling stuff. Like she can meet somebody and immediately, she always used to joke with me when I was dating. She'd be like, "Oh, that girl's not good for you," and we'd break up like 3 weeks later. My mom was just right. Like my mom just said that thing, and it wasn't because of her influence. It was just like, yeah, that chick is crazy. I'm out of here. But anyway, when you go to Villisca, one of the main things when you walk in, it's a small farmhouse. You still see the axe marks from the gentleman. So when you look above, you still can see them. I'm guessing, Nick, your brain is just going to go wild when you're in there.
We'll get there.
Yeah. And so as you guys know, they killed the entire family. The person killed the entire family, including babies. So when you go in there and you see like the little, and if you're a mom, you're going to be like tearing up. Like you're going to see this little cradle, and there was a little baby in there, and you're just going to tear up. Like my mom just started crying. And you walk in there and you just feel, and they leave everything the way they had it because the killer, he put like a cloth over the mirrors, which is to me A-level freaky. So when he was killing the people, before he killed them, he put a cloth over the mirror, and that cloth is still there. You can't touch it or people will freak out on you. But when you go into the attic, immediately you feel something, whether you're clairvoyant, sensitive, whatever. You feel heavy. Like I told my mom, I was just like, "Whoo, I don't like this, Mom." She goes, "Yeah, honey, I don't like it either." And we got out of there. Now the second time I went with my daughter, and my daughter was like, "Dad, I don't feel good. This is weird." And I'm like, "It's okay, honey. It's probably being in this farmhouse." It was the summertime, so at that time they didn't have air conditioning. And my daughter's like, "I don't feel right." And as soon as we went into where the girls were killed, my daughter was like, "I feel sick, Dad." And I'm like, "Okay, honey, let's get out." And she went out and she doubled over and she got sick. And I said, "Was something you ate, sweetie?" And she goes, "No, Dad, I don't know." And we were thinking on staying the night. And my daughter after that said, "No way." I am staying the night because we were going to stay the night because she's into paranormal too. And she's like, "Nope, not happening. Sorry, Dad. We got to drive back." It's about 4 hours away from me, so it isn't too bad. But the funny thing that always cracks me up is there are houses on each side of it. So neighbors, right? You're telling me they've never looked out their window and seen something? Come on, you've had to see something because this is like really, really like the Lizzie Borden house, just paranormal everywhere, just on the grounds, in the house. And I'm just like, that's something you guys get. I highly, highly recommend. So,
I'm the planner,
and we're trying to get there.
I've already said we're doing Villisca and Sally House on the same trip because they're not that far from each other.
Yeah,
we're going to fly to Kansas City. I already know where we're going.
Yeah,
there you go.
That lines up with everyone's schedule. So.
Yeah.
Just so you guys know, too, it's a small town. So when you go into a cafe to like get something to eat, all people will turn to you and go, "So you have Villisca, huh?" And you'll be like, "Yeah." And they'll be like, "Okay," because that's the only reason to go to that town. I mean, there's like 3,000 people. It's a small town, like any small town anywhere. And everybody knows each other's business. So when you start walking in, they're just like, "Villisca, huh?" So Jackie, tell me about, again, your favorite experience and your favorite place.
There's a couple. But kind of piggybacking off of what you've said about the neighbors at Villisca looking over and seeing something in the windows.
Yeah.
At S.K. Pierce Haunted Victorian Mansion in Gardner, Massachusetts, we did solos. And, where you write down a location, you put it in a hat, and everyone picks out where they're going. I got the basement. And I am
lucky you.
Yeah, I am kicking myself to this day because I'm like, I should have recorded this. But I think we don't record as much as some groups do because we want to live in the moment.
Be in the moment.
Yeah, we want to be in the moment. And also, we don't have time to edit. So that's part of it.
And,
but
make it look pretty.
But I went down to the basement and I was freaking out. I'm just like, I don't want to be down here. I hate this place. Because Marianne, who's like the caretaker there, she shows us this infamous picture that a guest got down in the basement of this like scary looking face somewhere in the basement. And that's all I kept thinking about while I'm down there. So anyway, I sit down. There's a red light on in the basement that stays on. It's like this big red light. So I'm sitting there. I'm like, I don't know what to do right now. So I'm just sitting there listening. And then I get out my SP7 and I put it on. And I just start asking questions. And I'm like, you know, is anyone here with me? And I hear a woman's voice go, what was it? Under feet.
Ooh.
And I was like, I looked down and I'm like, there's just concrete here. I'm like, are you saying you're like under the floor? And then I'm like, well, where are you? Where do you want me to go? And then I heard the woman's voice come through again, say to your left or to the left, something along the lines of look to the left. I looked to the left, there's something there. So I spent another, 15 minutes down there. I go back and I'm talking to Marion and I tell her what I experienced. And she goes, come here. Let me show you this. She pulls out her phone. She scrolls through and she pulls up a photo that the neighbor took of the mansion. In the basement. Clear as day. I wish I had the photo. Clear as day, you see a silhouette of a woman in the basement window. And I'm like, that was to the left of where I was sitting in the basement. Like that exact window was to my left. And then when I told her how, I was like, I think something was telling me that it's under the floor. They actually recently found, so years ago, they did find a female pelvic, was it a pelvic bone? Yeah. Pelvic bone in the kiln in the basement. Ooh. And then she said, what was it, 2 months prior to us coming there, they found another bone. Yeah, an ulna forearm bone of a female. So they hired some contractor to come out into the basement and dig up the concrete. I think they were putting some gutter or some kind of drain in, and it was under the concrete they found the bone. So she's like, I think something's telling you it's under there. And I'm like, I didn't even know that until I told her about that.
We didn't know that.
And then she kind of filled in the gaps there. And I was like, okay, so that made total sense now. Well, why she said under feet to the left. So it was the woman in the window telling me she's probably under the floor. I don't know. But to this day, I still am kicking myself for not filming that.
Oh, amazing. That is an amazing experience. I love that experience. You said you had another one too.
Oh, at White Hill when the walkies went off.
Oh,
oh my gosh.
That was wild.
That was wild. That's like a moment. Like, where it's just like sheer fear. Yeah. You're like,
what happened? Like,
you don't always think paranormal when these things happen. You think of the most logical thing. Mm-hmm. So like you were saying, okay, we're sitting in the nursery in White Hill Mansion.
I forgot I was choked.
And you forgot you were choked. We're sitting there just listening. We like to just listen. And Nick all of a sudden jumps up and he's like, I'm Jackie, I'm being choked. And I'm like, what do I do? How do I stop something I can't see?
My eyes got really big.
His eyes were like tearing up, like, as if like.
Wow.
Yeah. He's like, I'm being choked. Jackie, help me. And I'm like, I don't even know what to do.
I'm just sitting there and I'm like, could you let go of him? Like, kind of like, go?
Yeah, let go.
So then it finally calmed down, and then we start walking through the place, and he's calling out, who choked me? All of a sudden we hear, and we forgot we had walkies on our set. Like, we had a walkie. Right. Mine was off.
Hers was off.
His was downstairs.
And then
she had hers on.
I had mine on. So we're walking through, and you hear, and we literally stop dead, and I'm like, what? And then right away you're like, oh, we're staying here.
Yeah.
Like, in other words, you didn't want to leave. And then we're just listening, and then you hear again, and then help come through, and we're all like, and of course we're thinking like, is somebody in the house?
And they're using Nick's walkie to talk to us.
It was freaky, and we're like, okay, there's not really many houses near White Hill. No. So, and who's going to get on a walkie at like 10, 11 o'clock at night?
In random New Jersey.
It's not even lit back there when you drive on the property.
Yeah, it's not even like lit up.
And Erica wasn't even there. So on the property, there's a trailer. So it was literally, we rented it out. It was just the three of us in that building. Erica's in the trailer. Yeah, Erica was in the trailer, but she went out to get pizza. So she wasn't even there. So, like, your first thought is, like, somebody is downstairs with his walkie talking to us. Somebody got in here. That was my first thought. And I was, like, beside myself. And then you start piecing, and then you're like, wait, there is no one here.
No one's here. The door's locked. The gate's locked. Yeah. We're the only ones in this house.
Yes. Yeah, and then somebody just says, help. And then that was it.
That was it. And then actually throughout the rest of it, we kept hearing the walkie getting clicked.
Off, yeah.
Yeah.
And just to point this out, John, like, there's other instances where you watch these paranormal shows, they have walkie interference.
You had
cell phones
had it at Penhurst.
I had it at Penhurst. Yeah, I had a little girl come through with like Morse code spelling attention.
God.
And she went, hello.
Yeah.
We have a TikTok of that.
That was like unreal.
Yeah. So this happens. This is like a common. I wouldn't say common, but it happens in the paranormal.
More than it should.
Yeah, and that makes you realize, okay, that logical conclusion that somebody broke in, that isn't what happened here. Like, this has got to be something paranormal. Like, even my husband is a grade A skeptic. This man doesn't even believe in God. He does not. I'll come home, I'll tell, okay. Like, we got to a point where we just have this agreement. We don't talk about it. Like, I'll come home, I'll say it was good, and that's the end of it. I came home and I told him about it, and then we have a recording. I think that could be in our file. If not, it's on our social media, but there is a recording. Renee luckily had her phone running when that walkie thing happened, and I played it for my husband, and even he was like, okay, well, yeah, I guess who would be on a walkie-talkie at 11 o'clock at night saying help? Like, who would have done that? Like,
we're set to one channel. How do they get into the channel that we have?
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
I understand it, it stretches out, but
I mean, like, there's no close, like, there's no
surrounded by water.
It's surrounded by water, and there's no close neighboring houses there.
Yeah. It just didn't add up.
It's off of like this main drag, and there's like an old motel and like an old pizza shop and an old diner, and then your White Hill Mansion.
Yeah.
And
that's
you're
crazy.
You're in a wooded area. You're surrounded by like a wooded area.
So that was my top moment. Wild. That was wild.
And we had children.
That's absolutely crazy. Wow, that is a great story. I haven't heard anything like that. That is awesome. So before we finish up here, one of the things I wanted to ask you guys is you do personal investigations. Like, if someone would come up to you, let's say it's me, and I say, hey, Jackie, Nick, Renee, I think my house is haunted. I think there's an evil spirit in there. It's really scaring my children. Could you help me? Do you guys do anything like that?
I would like to. I would like to start doing that. It's just we don't really have the time.
Right. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I had more of a free schedule. Yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I got a phone call the other day actually from somebody in Warminster who wants us to come check out.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, well, that's what I can do.
It's like a case-by-case basis. Yeah. Obviously, and I say this all the time, like, no one is an expert on the paranormal. No one.
No.
And if anyone thinks they're better than one group or the other, like, how can you be good at how can you be better than one group over the other, or have this competition when we're dealing with something we don't even understand? So, I mean, really, we would just be coming out to see if what you're saying is happening is like, if it's setting off our equipment, then obviously there could be something going on. But who are we to say one way or the other what it is? We don't even know what these things are.
Right. That's a great point, Jackie. And one of my episodes, I had a medium on, and she's also a scryer and everything. And she told me, like, someone reached out to her and said they had all these issues. They felt there was an evil presence there. And then when she started interviewing the person, she found out they had, unfortunately, some mental issues. And, she was like, look, I can go out there and help you, but I think you should seek therapy first and get your help and figure out what's going on. Because people don't understand, like with poltergeists, for example, typically poltergeists, and I don't know if you guys can tell a story about this or not, but typically poltergeists, from my research and talking to all my spooky guests I've had on, have said it's usually tied to a dramatic event in the house, maybe some type of mental issue, something like that. It's not like a poltergeist just shows up in Jackie's house and is like, I'm going to start throwing teacups. It just doesn't work that way. Maybe there's something between you and your husband or Nick or Renee. Maybe you guys are having issues and you're sitting there and you bring them to the place. Do you guys agree with that to a certain point?
I do.
I do.
I'm glad you brought that up because I'm actually in physician assistant school. So obviously I like the medical side of things is what I learn about all the time. And there's actually a really cool guy on Instagram. He's called Haunted MD. He is I think he's an emergency med doctor. I love following him because he's brought up some really interesting points. And one of the things he brought up was, how do you deduce whether or not this is like a mental health issue or it's actually a haunting? And he's like, if more than one person is experiencing the same thing at the same time, then you know it's not just that person. So I do like to point that out. So like when we heard that little girl at Penhurst singing, there were 12 of us that heard that. And you know, so you know you're not, it's not a figment of your imagination, or you're not having a schizophrenic moment, or, you know, something like that. So I'm glad you pointed that out, because that I do try to filter some of the things people say through that lens. Like, okay, like you do have to keep that in the back of your mind, unfortunately, because those can be manifestations of a mental health crisis.
Yeah. So speaking of that, have you guys ever, and you know, it's just life, right? Maybe you had a bad day at work. Maybe you had an argument with the hubby or the wife or whatever like that. By the way, I have to ask, are you guys all married?
I'm just checking.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Nick, I don't mean to exclude you, but this always cracks me up because one time a paranormal investigating team said they're husband and wife and they go out, together. And they were getting into an argument and they were arguing about something. And they swore they heard on their spirit box, "Shut up." And so I have to ask, have you guys ever been in an argument and like, no, I heard something. No, hey, what are you talking about? And maybe a voice comes over and says, quiet, or whatever like that.
No, I mean, like, we'll hear our names come through.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We, Jackie and I have some video footage of our names being said at Penhurst inside the infirmary building. I mean,
you at Mayflower last
yeah.
spring.
So, like 2 springs ago, I did a photography tour at Penhurst, and it's like broad daylight, 3rd floor Mayflower building, setting up my camera. There's people milling around, other photographers, and I don't know anybody there. Nick's outside, Matt was outside, and I just heard, "Hey, Renee." I just heard my name, and I kind of just was like, okay, just yeah.
My name came through at the Concord House. That was
Wow.
Jackie.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. That's crazy. So if you guys don't mind,
you hear your voice come through. I mean, you feel like you're going to be.
You had Jackie come through at Penhurst when we first met.
Yes. Yeah.
Closed mouth.
Yeah. A spirit told her, "Closed mouth, bitch."
Yeah.
First said Jack. We were sitting on our 3rd floor, and there's this little boy. His name is William Fisher. He passed away at 10. He likes any woman. Don't matter what you are. He likes women. And he said, Jackie. I said, okay. Can you say it again? He says, Jackie. And she felt like she was being kissed, and she's saying, I feel like, someone's kissing me.
Yeah, we were wearing masks.
No, we were wearing masks during that. And I felt like all this moisture around my mouth. And I looked at, I didn't even say anything to the group. I was looking at Renee. I'm like,
you're like, there's some wet on my mouth.
Wet. And then you hear closed mouth bitch. Yeah. Come through the box.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jackie, I'm worried about you. You've had bruises. Ghosts are trying to make out with you. I mean, Renee, you should be scared. They're coming after you next.
No, it's like, Nick? Well, he's had experience. She's had experience. Like, I'm just kind of sitting back, like, all right, I'm just waiting. I know one it'll be my time, but
you might have seen that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's unbelievable. That would freak me out. I have to be completely honest. If I felt that would be freaky. Or the name thing is freaky enough.
It's like you said, in isolation, you don't think about it being paranormal, but once everything happens and plays out, you think back and you're like, oh, that totally made sense now. Like, and again, it could be us psychologically filling in gaps. I don't know. Make of it what you will, but it made sense to me that I was like, okay, that was weird.
Oh, that's crazy. So if you guys don't mind, I would just like to take a few minutes. I want to do a quick bucket list of wherever you could go in the world and do a paranormal investigation, I'm going to give you guys a couple of mine, and then you guys just, however you guys want to do it, just tell me, that's good, or this is what I like. Okay, you guys already know Lizzie Borden House. That's an easy one. But Salem, that is one of I want to go to the witch trials, where all that area is.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of mine. The Whaley House, I love that too. And last but certainly not least, the Magnolia Plantation. So are you guys familiar? Obviously Salem, but are you familiar with the Whaley and Magnolia Plantation?
Yeah. I didn't know Magnolia was haunted.
Oh, hella haunted. Yeah. That's the one where you will see the slave woman who poisoned the entire family and killed the entire family because she was having an affair with the head of the household, the father. And the wife found out and was trying to kill her, but didn't work. It's this crazy big thing. There's just like you walk onto the plantation and you see the rocking chairs move. I guess, Nick, your mind would be blown because you walk into the stables. It's really haunted in there. Her room you can sleep in is really bad, really hella haunted. And a lot of the people feel like their stomach bothers them or they have trouble breathing and everything. And then, of course, my last one for international is the Suicide Forest in Japan. So, how about you guys? Do you guys have a favorite place internationally in the States you would like to visit and explore? Or do an investigation, I should say.
Ford Theater.
Assassination.
I want to investigate that.
Why?
Ford Theater is number one. Myrtles, yes. Myrtles Plantation. I want to go there.
Oh, sure. That's another good one.
I really want to go to New Orleans. Anywhere in New Orleans. I don't know where, but I just want it. I want to see it.
Yeah. That's two good places. Renee?
So I guess just quickly off the top of my head, I really want to go to the Velisca house and Sally house.
There you go.
It's like, a short-term goal,
Yeah.
right? Long-term, I don't know, somewhere over in like maybe the UK, like Scotland or Ireland.
Sure.
I'm not familiar with a lot of like the haunted stuff over there. I probably should, get versed on that, read up, because I know there's some pretty good places over there. Yeah, definitely down south, like New Orleans to Savannah, Georgia. I want to get down there.
Oh, Savannah's awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Jackie?
Well, like she said, short term, definitely Velisca and Sally House. Thank you, Project Fear, for giving us that idea. I actually luckily did go to Scotland for a wedding, and there happened to be a cemetery on the property, and a couple girls I was there with, come on, get your, like I brought my gear with me, and they're like, come on, let's go to the cemetery. So we go, and I'll never forget this. I turn on my spirit box, and I was at the grave of this one person, and it said, "Get out now." And the girl I was with, who never had done any of this before, looked at me, and she's like, I heard that. And I'm like, all right, we're done here. So that, unfortunately, when I've gone abroad, I haven't been able to actually do a proper investigation, but I would love to go back to Scotland or Ireland and do like proper investigating. And then I guess one other one for me would be like the Queen Mary in Long Beach, California.
Good one.
I've heard some good things about it. So the investigation is pretty cool.
Yeah.
If you're going to do the Queen Mary, the Winchester Mansion is near there.
Yes. I went there when I was 15. My grandfather took me there.
Oh,
but this is before I got into any of this. So I remember, I vaguely remember it, but I would love to go back there just to explore it.
Seems like a fun place.
That would be like,
I've been there.
Yeah. And it's in a weird place. So I've traveled all over the country business. And I remember I was driving past, and I have my GPS on, and it says Winchester Mansion, because I set it to the Winchester Mansion. I must be near here. And I look, and there's this house in the middle of like this business district. Yeah. It's like really weird. It's like You think it'd be like off in these fields, and be like, ooh, no, it's just right in the right downtown. That's where it is. Totally out of place. So, guys, tell me what you guys have coming up for my spooky friends. What investigations? What can they check out? Because I will put all your social media links out for them to check you out and see what's going on.
Well, I think we're in the process of planning our next trip. So I'm in school, so we have to kind of plan this around when I have a break. So end of May, we are talking about doing not one but 2 nights at Lizzie Borden. So we're going to try something new going forward. It is more than one night in the same location to maximize our
chances of getting like a lot of activity. Yeah. It's tough, like some of these, like just one nighters, some like it gets hit or miss.
5-6 hours.
Yeah, right. you don't get enough time. I mean, we went to Conjuring House, spent one night there. I mean, it was all right, but it's like I think you get the sense that there was more that house could have offered you if you had been able to stay longer. So anyway, we are going to try that going forward. So keep a look out for that. We're on Instagram, we're on TikTok at ExspiravitParanormal. I know that's a mouthful and hard to spell, but it's what we came up with. We have a Facebook.
We do a Facebook.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't have a YouTube or anything. Like I said, we don't have time.
We don't have time to edit and like do all that kind of stuff.
But we do go live when we're at the location. So if you want to see raw, unedited footage, it's on there. It's on our Instagram.
And then we're also trying to, at some point, plan a trip to Melissa and Sally. So hopefully
either later this year or sometime next year.
I love that. My spooky friends, I will put all their stuff out there. This was an amazing conversation. I could talk to you guys for hours because you guys are this is crazy. I've never heard some of these stories. Again, that's why I love paranormal investigators. You guys always have different stories, different ways of doing anything. And if you promise me to come back on the show when you have more investigations, I would love that. You could talk about that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having us. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm glad I found you too. You guys are awesome. I love you guys. One of the things before, I don't know if your house is haunted. Any one of your houses haunted? No?
This is actually.
Oh, okay.
This is awesome. Are you getting vibes?
Yeah, you getting vibes?
Are you getting vibes?
I'm getting vibes. So what we always say to end every show is we say hi to your ghost. Hello, ghost. Because, I have a ghost, right? Got to be friendly to him or her. And we say stay spooky. So thank you so much. Love you guys and look forward to having you back on.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a good one.
Take care.
Thanks.
Bye.
Take care.